Hey, I'm Matt Henley.
And I'm Rain Woods, and welcome to the Showtime podcast for the Pride of the Mountains Marching Band.
Whether you are a current member of the Pride of the Mountains, one of our incredible alumni, the Long Purple Line, or a supporter of the band, we are so happy that you tuned in with us today. I'm Matt Henley, and the head director of the Pride of the Mountains Marching Band at Western Carolina University, and with me is our chief student archivist, Rain Woods.
How you doing today, Matt?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
Dude, mentally, I am still in Tarpon Springs. We had too good of a time there. I'd say out of like the whole 7 years that I've been with this band, that was one of the best, if not the best, exhibition trips I've ever had with this band. My only regret is that we couldn't see Tarpon Springs perform because they actually took the field right before we did our night performance. And so, while they were tearing up the field, we were like setting up outside the stadium, so we couldn't really see them. But I saw a video of their show on YouTube, and it looks so cool.
Yeah,
so if you haven't seen Tarpon Springs and their show this year, you should check that out ASAP. Well, the last 2 episodes, we've had an awesome time talking about some upper leadership roles. But for today, we're taking a dive into the beating heart of our band, also known as the drum line, and specifically the role of snare section leader.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about different things to talk about. There's too numerous to name, but I think that the role of the snare drum section leader is really, really special. I mean, every single leadership role has very high expectations, but the snare drum section leader role is really, really specific. And so today I decided to reach out to a whole bunch of our alumni center snares, if you will, through the years, and going all the way back to the early 90s, the very first drum line I ever taught here in 1991. And believe it or not, we have 9 former section leaders and current section leaders, I should say, with us today. So thank you so much all for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this. I've got 9 of them. I'm just going to list them down. We have Jason Smith, Wes Hips, Dylan Engel, Justin Holmes, Victor Perez, Ryan Hall, Matt Gaddy, Ace Zhao, and Ashton Thompson. So I just can't thank you all enough for being here with us today. I got some. I just wanted to kind of dig a little deeper into this and just kind of see, because the experience is tough. There's a lot of high expectations and pressures that people don't even really know about. But let's start with Jason. Jason Smith. I tell you, man, one of my oldest friends. Actually, we worked together. I taught you in Tuscola High School, actually, when you were in high school at first. But why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody when you were in the band, when you were a section leader with us, kind of your marching experiences back then, and then kind of what you've been doing since you left.
Thanks, guys. And Matt, thanks for reminding me how completely old I am.
You're welcome. I'm here for your self-esteem anytime.
So you said 35 years ago in the intro, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, has it been 35 years? Because I look great. That's all there is to it.
You really do.
I really do. Now, Jason Smith, I marched from 91 to 95, 5 years in. Loved every minute of it. This was really before the Pride of the Mountains became what it is now, and obviously what it is known as Pride of the Mountains. So we were in its infancy stage. But graduated in 95. I think I was a section leader the last year of my career there, and then went on to teach for almost 28 years here in Alabama. Landed in a good spot as a thriving percussion instructor, and then as a director of bands for a couple of years. I've since retired 2 years ago, and now I work for a rather large instrument manufacturing company as a district manager, and have a good time doing it. So those of you know who Adam Frank is, I am a peer to him in the Southeastern Territory for Yamaha. So loving it.
Awesome. Well, it was a different time then. We were building something, and we all knew it was pretty special, and we had some amazing human beings that really, really applied themselves to make all of that happen. And yourself, you pushed yourself. I believe when you marched some drum corps even back then, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, talking about the section leader piece, Matt was always really diligent about making sure that the section leaders were on campus for band camp. That was one of the most formative times for that drum line and stuff to come together. And, long story short, I was at, Carolina Crown for 3 of those summers.
Right.
And so, a couple of those guys stepped into that leadership role. Obviously, coming off of corps, you have a different kind of experience, a different kind of thing to share. But I was grateful for the opportunity to be section leader in 95, even though I was finishing up my tour career.
Right.
at that point. But yes, Carolina Crown and Western were kind of simultaneous rockets, if you will. They were not what they are known as now. They were very much part of that story of growing, and I was proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say your favorite performance memory is?
That's a tough one. The thing that sticks out to me the most is the very last show. Now, mind you, it's been a long time since this happened, but my memory of that was the respect that Western and Bob and you gave to that senior class and recognized us on that field. And if I remember right, it wasn't even a football game; it was like a band contest at Irwin at the time, and it was just as I remember it. Of course, this is for many years separated. But as we're moving forward, and you're the section leader and the drumline's drumming, this is going to be the last show, and everybody veers off to the right, and you're left standing there in the field, bathed in applause, and that this is that moment, that you've kind of worked for those many years,
Right.
and especially the fact that the band was growing so fast and so fervently and all in the right direction. That was a very special moment for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about our alumni and talk about the Long Purple Line and standing on the shoulders of giants. And I've always viewed that class of people that I first started working with, namely you and others, that absolutely laid the solid foundation and the bedrock of where we stand. So how does that make you feel, knowing that you were part of all that? Seeing what the band's doing now,
Well, it's all of that. It's all of that emotion. I think if I speak just to your influence, if I speak to Bob's influence at the time and the other folks that were surrounding, it was such a support for the lack of information that I had at that time. And some of I wouldn't even call it poor decisions. That's not fair. Just lack of understanding what direction it's going, but knowing that we were on the right path to get there. There was a love and a passion for what you guys believed in, and you were willing to help us get there, even though we didn't have all the skills or the tools to do it. Right. So when I look back on that, I realized that rocket ship was going to take off and it was going to succeed with or without me. But I was so proud to be a part of that. Right.
That's cool.
That was an important time. It was formative. Right. Every decision after that was based on that experience of being lifted up, even though as I look back, there was a lot of patience given by a Matt Henley and a Bob Buckner to the lack of skill set that I had in every arena of that.
Right. Sidebar, I think it's also kind of interesting that your snare tech back in Carolina Crown was a guy named Gil Doggett, who is the band director of this guy over here, Dylan Engel, at Kings Mountain High School. So it's a small world, certainly.
Yes.
I guess we'll move on to the next guy up on the list, I guess would be Mr. Wes Hips, kind of a similar story, but that later in the process also worked with Wes in high school and ended up coming here. Wes, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for inviting me to this.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, why don't you tell everybody, introduce yourself a little bit in regard to when you were here and your experience here when you were section leader.
Yeah. So I'm Wes. Started at Western in '99. Graduated from Tuscola. Matt Henley was the first guy to teach me how to hold a stick, and I really didn't have a choice but to go to Western. I think a little bit of family involved too. Bob was my second cousin, so I knew nothing more than Western, and I knew I wanted to go be part of that. So I was there till 2003. I hung around a little longer, and I was section leader 2002 and 2003. I think that's right. And now I'm teaching. Just my 18th year of teaching. Started at middle school teaching world music. It's kind of funny. We didn't do any world music at Western too much, but taught pan and Brazilian drumming at a middle school, and moved down to Columbia, South Carolina, and taught at Ridgeview High School for 5 years. And now I'm back in near the mountains in Greenville at Riverside High School. So it's my second year here doing all the things, percussion, and doing world music as well. So
Awesome. Actually working with another alumni, actually, right?
Yeah. The director of bands here, Chris Bentz, is an alumni from WCU. So it's there's a lot of WCU talk here in this band room.
Yeah, sure. I like the pennant on the wall. That's good stuff. So what would you say, Wes? I mean, as you look back, what were some of the challenges you think that you faced when you were a section leader? Because it's a tough job.
Yeah, and during that time frame, and we didn't have the purple line and the gold line. We didn't have two drum lines, and we had what we had, and we had some really talented people in that drum line, and it was a wonderful time. I think the challenge for me, and it's kind of where I cut my teeth, like teaching, a lot of responsibility was put on the section leaders to make sure that the snare line was playing or the tenor line was playing, and that was a challenge sometimes, getting everybody together and making sure that we were at the level that was expected. But I enjoyed it though. That was the fun part about it. And like, it was a family, if you will. All those late night sectionals and stuff. And yeah, it was a good time. But yeah, I think that as a challenge, I don't know if that was really a challenge, but
It's that level of
I
expectation.
Yeah. It just to meet that, and and I knew that you and Bob, you had a level set that you didn't want to walk into that rehearsal with your drum line not playing well.
Yeah.
So and that was. It was fun though. I enjoyed that pressure.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes you better whether you want to be or not.
Right.
That it's definitely a high expectation. What would you say your favorite like non-performance memory would be?
Oh boy. Well,
keep it clean.
I will. It's totally clean. This. All right. We'll go back to the family aspect of it. Leatherwood. All right. That's where half the drum line was, or if not more. I think we had like the entire snare line on the second floor of Leatherwood, and I remember my freshman year. It was just a family. I don't know how I got in Leatherwood my freshman year, because I don't think you're supposed to be in that dorm at that time, But man, we had a good time. We used to drum a lot, and this is going to date me a little bit, but Nintendo 64. Man, GoldenEye 007 multiplayer. And of course, multiplayer in that time was like everybody was in the same room, right? So we were all on the same like futon playing GoldenEye, and talk about becoming close to your buddies in the snare line, playing that game, that would do it. But we did that. I probably played that game and drummed probably more than I should have my freshman year. Had to figure out I had to do some other things to make sure I graduated. But yeah, that's some of my fond memories of life outside of the performances.
Yeah. I think that level of bonding that people don't even really realize that happen, and I think it's actually necessary to play well. Is to have that level of camaraderie, that vibe, if you will. We talk about vibe all the time, and so I think that's very, very, very important. Hanging out outside of drumming, and even drumming casually. I think that's why nowadays, they built the wall, if you will, around the fountain and all that kind of stuff, which is turned into drummers' wall. I mean, every time you go, I could go out there right now and I guarantee you there's 3 guys there drumming.
That's awesome.
Yeah, guarantee it. In between every single class. Am I right, Ashton? Yeah, I guarantee it. It's where bonding happens, and growth happens. But it's amazing to me how that all works. But speaking of Leatherwood and going right into this, I guess the guy after you would have been John Henson, I believe, who actually ended up being assistant director here. And then right after that would be Mr. Dylan Engel, who's now an assistant director here. So it's wild how the lineage works. So Dylan, why don't you tell everybody about your time here as section leader?
Yeah, so I came in 2002. And ended up being section leader in 05 and 06. So I got me five continuous years. And then I spent that last year, I was on campus being being a mentor for the cymbal line. I don't know if you remember
I
that,
remember, yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, but we had fun. And then I came back to get my master's at Western in 2013 and got a chance to play some drum set with that line. So yeah, and spent 5 years in Texas, working with couple bands in Texas, and co-founded Drum Corps, and then decided to come back, work at Tuscola. It's weird how we all have this Tuscola connection. And then 9 years later, you call me, and this is year 2 at Western Carolina, probably one of the best gigs in the nation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you were, especially in the 2000s, I feel like that we started making some real jumps in regard to quality and depth of talent, and especially early 2000s. So what would you say that your biggest challenges were as a section leader?
I think the biggest challenge would be, you got about 3 months to make it happen. And we didn't have a lot of the YouTube or the Facebook video sessions over the summer, or it was literally just show up and drum, and we had to find time outside of classes. And like Wes said, I'll never forget. One memory I have is tracking about midnight in a parking lot, and at first I was like, "This is crazy," but at the end, it was a good time. So. But even through that moment, and then going through my section leader years, I've found that the people that I was drumming with didn't come from the same background. We didn't have, we didn't have the same resources. So I thought it was a challenge for me was to get those guys on the end to play well. Yeah. That's kind of where it was. And they're the newbies. They're coming in, so. The center five, we were solid guys that had been together for a couple of years, so we felt good. But those outside guys that became the challenge. But that's basically where it falls in. It's just different backgrounds, and all of us are just young and dumb and ready to drum. So,
I think that different backgrounds is a big deal, and that's not just in the drum line; it's across the entire band. I think that. People see that incredible product out there and that incredible band, which we're all very proud of. I know I am. I'm proud of every one of them. But they all have very different experiences. Not everybody was lucky enough to grow up in where they're getting incredible education or skill sets or information. And so we have to meet them where they are when they walk in the door and try to get them educated. And if as long as the desire's there, usually we can make that happen. So I agree with you. And especially back then, it's funny you bring up the internet thing. I think we would all agree, those of us that lived through what the heck is what is the World Wide Web, that I found out when I had my master's degree, by the way, what the heck that was. But having students walking in the door now, though, that have so much more information that they kids literally teaching themselves at home in their bedroom based on what they see and hear on the internet. So that's amazing. But back then, we didn't have any of that.
You had to go to the bookstore to buy a drum book.
Yeah, or order it from Steve Weiss Music, right? And that was all we had.
Buy little cassette tapes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So I don't know. I think, and because of that, I think that the talent and the achievement that's being gotten by some of our youth right now is incredible. But I think it's because they're learning earlier and teaching themselves a lot of the time, for sure. But next, I guess we would have none other than the Justin Holmes coming up after that. A bright and shining light, I do believe. When he came into the program, really, really naturally gifted. Did come through a good program, got some good skill sets early. But I think definitely, I think improved the culture, in my opinion. So Justin, thanks and welcome to the program. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody about your history here?
Yeah, man. My name is Justin Holmes. Went to Western from 2008 I marched from 2008 till 2012. Graduated in 2013. And I first want to say, Matt, thank you for everything, dude. Like, you're the man. Like, this program has meant so much to me. But yeah, my time at Western, it was literally the best time of my life. It was just awesome. So, I saw you guys at a BOA in Atlanta when I was in high school. And that was the first time I had seen like a big band or anything. And I was like, what in the world is that? How is that in North Carolina? What in the world? So my band director at the time, my assistant band director, Shane Benson, actually graduated from Western Carolina.
Yep.
He was like, Justin, you have to go there, dude. Like, the staff is great. You're going to love it. So that's where I ended up going. I don't think I was even planning on going to college before that, but I saw it and I was like, I have to do it.
Yeah, Shane's a good guy. He actually was up here helping us run Tournament of Champions recently. So, he was a big influence, I know, in your life. So what would you say, walking in the door when you were a first, newbie, scared to death freshman, what would you say was the most challenging part of that moment, if you can remember what that felt like?
So it's kind of like big fish in a small pond. I wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination when I was in high school, but I was one of the better guys. But coming into Western and everybody around you is just like insanely talented, that was nerve-wracking. I was like, oh snap, this is that next level, you know?
Oh
So
yeah.
it was definitely like an eye opener.
Yeah, yeah. And we deal with that big fish, small pond syndrome, I call it, every year. And that's not a slam. That's just reality, man. Luckily, students, they achieve a lot in their high school and they get to a certain level and they were section leader or they were whatever. And they come in, they kind of have to start over. It's because they are a small fish in the Atlantic Ocean at that point. And they have, and that so it's interesting. Most students embrace that moment and go, okay, you know what, this is not fun to feel this way and it's intimidating, but if I'll embrace the moment, I'm going to learn a lot and I'm going to get bigger. And I've always said, if you're the best drummer walking in the door, you should go to some different school because you're not going to get any better. But if you walk in and you embrace that moment, more than likely you're going to grow both as a drummer, a musician, as well as just a human being to push yourself. And I think that's a big thing that we do here. I really believe that. Now, some people, they get too intimidated and they walk away, and that's always sad to me. But they can't handle that feeling of not being good enough yet. But I think that's a big deal. So what would you say your biggest challenges was after you'd kind of grown here and you were a section leader? What was your biggest challenge doing that job?
I think it's no secret my grades suffered a little bit. I think that was my biggest challenge, just trying to find the balance, man, because I loved it so much, so passionate about it. These were literally my best friends in the whole world, all around me. We're at beautiful Western Carolina, and trying to remember that I need to focus on the education part of it. That was a challenge for me, dude. I struggled a lot, but finally figured it out towards the end.
Right.
But that was one of the things that was a big struggle to me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Everybody's path's a little bit different. Like the destination might be the same, but everybody has a different path to kind of get there. And I think some people walk in the door and they know how to balance and they know how to to say no to the drumming or to the whatever, and go do what they have to do or want to do. So I think that's always a struggle for a lot of folks. You know what I mean? But I'm super proud of you. I think that you're a major success story, and you're killing it down there at Smithfield Selma and doing incredible things. If you haven't checked out his drumline and percussion program, you definitely should, because both in marching season, but especially in the off season, doing kind of community drumming stuff that you're doing and some incredible productions that you're providing for that school. So congrats to you and all that you do for music education for sure. And then I guess right after you would have been Mr. Victor Perez, doing also amazing things in his town of Dorman High School. But Victor, tell everybody about your time here.
Yeah, I was a member from in the marching band from 2009 until 2013. That's 5 years for all of you math whizzes out there. So
that seems to be a common thread among.
It was, and not to be frowned upon, but I mean, it's especially any percussionist rather, but especially a snare drummer. It's a snare drummer's paradise. That's what Western Carolina is. I was a section leader, fortunately. Fortunate enough to be section leader in 2013. Did not anticipate being section leader. Actually, have kind of a unique path to that role. I was actually working a band camp here at my high school, still in college, was getting ready for my senior year at Western, and you get that phone call anytime Matt Henley's name pops up on your phone. You answer, and that's still true to this day. Somebody that I respect a whole lot. So appreciate you, Matt, and all you've done. But anytime he calls, I answer. He knows that, and he called me and said, "Hey, there's some things that have happened. We're making a change, and you're the guy." And I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to do this. It's fight or flight, sink or swim. But, with that, I was eased up. As soon as you step foot on that campus, man, you see the culture that's been built. I kind of came in. I still believe to this day, the class of 2009 was one of the most talented classes to come in our field. I mean, you've got Charlie Diaz, Terry Dennison, Taylor Barnes. I mean, these are some legends in the game. And people that follow our story and our culture kind of know those cats. But I mean, the list goes on and on and on with the talent that we had. And so I just knew, that I had to not screw it up because we were going to be awesome. And we were friends. That was the big thing, is that we bonded. And I when I stepped in, I kind of piggyback off what Justin said, the big fish in the small pond thing. I mean, I understand that more than anybody. I could have went to any SEC or ACC school and done, the football band and been fine. And that wasn't going to push me. I was not interested in that. And so when I got to Western, In fact, the first two people I saw when I pulled up drumming were Ben Lupton and Justin Holmes. And that's where you want to be. You want to be a room surrounded by those people. And I was not the best anymore, which was awesome. It was like probably the best thing that's ever happened to me, was going around and surrounding myself with people that were way better than me, and could still probably outdrum me under a table. Never admit it, but that was the culture I chose to surround myself with. And you just get indulged with it. And it was probably kind of a unique scenario for me how I landed the gig, but it was just an incredible blessing. So I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, you're right. You were kind of cold water in the face moment there for you, but I mean, you embraced it. I was so proud of you back then, because we didn't miss a beat. Forgive the pun, but I mean, we really didn't. So, what would you say your biggest challenge though was that year? Peer to peer leadership is arguably the most difficult leadership there is, in my opinion. So, what would you say the toughest challenge was that year?
Well, I mean, you don't replace. I mean, here's the elephant in the room. You don't replace Justin Holmes, right? I mean, he was a section leader for 2 years before me, and not trying to live. I had all his support. He was still on campus, but you just don't come in. You got to come in and be yourself. What made it easy was the Ryan Halls and the Charlie Diaz's and the Taylor Barnes that were on tour with me in the summer that I marched, and we all kind of bonded around that. And we just kind of stepped right in. We actually marched 9 snares that year. And that was cool because I was a true center, and it really made things, just go. And it took the challenging part, I would say, was letting everybody know who I was in that role. Everybody got so used to, the culture and the greatness that Justin had done. And again, it was just like, hey, don't screw it up. Be yourself. Be that, especially when we were in such a time where our drumming was super high, but our emotion, man, I mean, we ate, slept, sweated, blood, sweat, and tears, purple and gold, Western Carolina drumline. And we had 2 drum lines. And we were around the cusp of, there was even a time where there was a possibility of a third. We were calling it the red line. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember that.
And so we had influx of talent. There are so many anecdotes I can say where that would speak to the impressiveness of what we did. But it was just a culture that you had to wrap yourself into. That we were so emotional, man. I mean, we fought like brothers, but we loved each other, like family. We were so close. I mean, the hype generation is what I like to call it, and all the hashtags and MGLO and all that started in our era. So
yes.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. You're right. A lot of the stuff in those coin lines and all that stuff all started during that period of time. I think that level of bonding and family and tradition, all that stuff that is still going on to this day, thanks to guys like Ashton to my right here. I mean, all that stuff is so embraced. It's extremely cool. And speak a little bit about that second drum line. Those of you out there that are listening, I don't know if we're the only university in the country or one of the only universities, certainly, that has 2 drum lines. That was the history behind that, and the reason for that was, I'll never forget it. It was 2009, I believe. And 2009, I did auditions, and for the first time ever, I had about a dozen students who were going to get cut, and they were all pretty good. Like, that was the difference that year, was like, wait a minute, like, these students, I mean, I easily would have taken them 5 years ago, So, and it just so happened that a former section leader, Mr. Austin Sanders, if you're out there, he had just graduated. He had a job in the area, and I went to him. I just had this crazy idea. We had just gotten new drums, and I went to Bob Buckner, and I said, I got this crazy idea. I want to create like a JV varsity concept drumline thing, because if these students chose to come to Western because of the band, because of the drumline, and I'm one of the only drummers I know with a conscience, so I felt really, really bad about that. So anyway, Bob gave me his blessing, and he always supported my crazy ideas. And we dusted those drums out and fixed a few of them, and Austin came in and taught that drum line, and that's how the Purple drum line started. And it has been an incredible success story to where this year, the past few years, I mean, the second drum line is not only about the same size, but are darn near close to the same level of talent and execution. And I'm so appreciative of that program. And Dylan, who's actually teaching them now, and Lion Kinsey, who's jumping in there and helping them out. I'm just so proud of that, because what we're doing is we're also cultivating talent on this very campus. We're not just relying on talent to show up at our doorstep. We're cultivating it here, and teaching the technique and teaching the things that we believe in here. So it's been really cool to watch. So, but that being said, we're going to scoot right along to Mr. Ryan Hall, who is also teaching. I think that's the coolest part about this too, is every single person we're talking to today is actively teaching and giving back to the percussion community, to the music education community in the Southeast. So I just think that's amazing, because that just spreads the purple wave even wider. So Mr. Ryan Hall, thanks for being with us here today, buddy. And why don't you tell everybody your time here and what your dates were and all that fun stuff.
Hey, I was at Western Carolina from 2011 to 2015. I do have a fire alarm going off, so I'm sorry if you can hear that here at Clover High School. Thank you for having me. This is probably the coolest Zoom meeting I've ever been on. I mean, we've got Nick Saban, aka Matt Henley here. We got Justin Holmes, Michael Jordan of drumming. So this is some legends here on this call. Thank you for having me. I was section leader let me back up to my freshman year, 2011, beside the Victor Perez. There was a couple long rolls that we had that Victor grabbed me by the cheeks and said, "If you don't play that clean," and he didn't need to say anything else. So that kind of whipped me into shape my freshman year. And like Victor said, coming in as a freshman and not the strongest player, they really whipped me into shape, and I appreciate that and their leadership. And then 2014 and 15, I was section leader, but I split center with Alex Vaughn. Alex and I marched on a crown snare line together in 14. And then in 15, at 14, I stayed at crown, and then Alex went to blue coats. So, I mean, that was just incredible marching beside him. He got to take the left side of the line. I took the right side, and we just kind of co-taught. And that was a lot of fun spending that with him. After Western, I went to Boise State, got my master's in music ed, and then came back to Clover. I've been at Clover for 7 years now. It's been an incredible journey, especially with the indoor drumline stuff here, getting to compete against Victor. That has been absolutely amazing. It's been a boost in everything that we do here competitively. And just remembering that I've got to compete against somebody that I've marched with and everything that he taught me. So I use that against him. So it's been a ton of fun. We won A-class WGI, open class WGI, took a concert world ensemble, and then a world-class marching group in the past 4 years. So it's been a journey here at Clover, and a ton of fun. And everything that I've learned at Western through these guys, through Justin, Victor, Seth Estes, Taylor Barnes, I've used in my teaching here. And Matt, like everything that you taught me about humility, sacrifice, the family, the camaraderie, I've used here at Western. World Championships weeks here at Clover, we take the kids and play laser tag. Like at Western, we would go hang out at each other's apartments and houses and hang out and do the hang. And here with the high school kids, it's all about that family. So the culture that I learned at Western has carried into Clover and to some of the successes that we've had here.
Yeah, I firmly believe when it comes to culture, one of the parts that doesn't get talked about a lot is if you look forward to going to practice because you're going to get to be around people that you really like that are your friends, you're going to want to be there. You're going to want to work hard. You're going to want to not disappoint your friends. You're going to want to show up prepared. There's a lot to be said for culture and the vibe. I mean, there really, really is. And I think everybody's so in tune to that now, especially now, that when there's this least little bump in the road, one little bump in the road in regard to somebody not meeting that vibe or changing that in any negative way, it's immediately like, we've got to fix this. And I think that's super cool. I think that the fact that everybody cares that much. But yeah, I'm super proud of certainly all that you've been doing, Ryan. What would you say is your favorite performance memory while you were here, though?
Performance memory kind of turns into the favorite rehearsal memory with Grand Nationals and Lucas Oil. When we got to rehearse in Lucas Oil, having already performed in there 9 times with a world-class drum corps,
right? But
then getting to rehearse in there with my best friends was so cool. And just getting to, in the rehearsal rep and then look around and be like, wow, this place is amazing. And I'm standing beside some of the best drummers I've ever met and my best friends. So Lucas Oil is my favorite.
Very cool. Yeah, that's definitely a special place, and I think we played it 6 times. I think, but yeah, that's and the fact that they allow us to do that is always a big deal. And yeah, those are some great memories as well. I actually still have a picture with me and that drum line, and you gave me That's What's Up. I think it was maybe been my 25th year or something like that. That was a very, very, very cool year for sure. Yeah, old Mr. Alex Vaughn, he did amazing things here as well. You know, just what I think is cool too. We have so many students now that have gone on to do world class, open class, DCI, WGI, whatever. And I've never had a problem with somebody coming back like with an attitude or feeling superior. Every single time, I can't think to a person, they've come back and said, here's something I learned. You know, let's apply this. I think this will make us better. Here's a nugget of something that they do a little bit differently that maybe we could evolve here, because you know, not every idea is going to work in a college setting, but most of them did. And I thank all of you for that as well. Just all that you brought back to the table to continue to make me better and to make this program better. I think that's a big part of our growth as well. So next, I guess on down the line, Mr. Matt Gaddy, now teaching down in South Carolina. Super proud of this guy. Also a very, very positive spirit in the long lineage of what's been going on here with the drumline. So Matt, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody when you were here?
Yeah. So my freshman year was 2018. I graduated in 2022. I started on the purple line. I spent 2 years there. As Dylan can remember, as my private lesson instructor, I kind of sucked when I got there. So it took me a while to work my way up, but I got there eventually. After Western, I went straight to working at North Augusta High School in South Carolina. This past year, I did my master's music ed online at the University of Georgia. I just finished that up.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
So now we're just, we started indoor last year. We did pretty well. So looking forward to get into that a second year with some more experience going in and understand what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, Matt, I'm so proud of you. You're definitely a self-made person. You know what I mean? You're just always had this incredible work ethic and just grit. But you are a great example of one of the first ones that kind of came through the Purple Drumline program and evolved into the Gold program, and then eventually, being the section leader. So literally living the gamut of what we offer here. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how that works, the evolution of that, and how you see it benefiting our students now.
Yeah. Well, in high school, I actually transferred because I wasn't getting what I needed to get to Western. That was always the goal. I saw it for the first time at Inca, Land of the Sky. It was Victor's senior year, actually, 2013. That was the first thing I ever saw. I didn't know what I needed to do to get there, but I knew I wanted to be there. So I transferred, and it kind of felt like that once I got there. I got there on the purple line and spent 2 years there, which is more than I had wanted to, because you want to move up. You want to move up quick. You
Sure.
spend most time up there, but that was just part of what I had to do. And I think I'm super grateful for that. I got 2 years there. I had to learn a lot about, what it takes to get better. Basics, lots of time. There's no substitute for just drumming and time, especially like these guys have talked about, like with your friends. A lot of time with like guys like Ashton and Ace that are on here, out at the wall and playing. And yeah, it was just a good time. It really paid off, my like last year getting to be the section leader. I think it made it way more fulfilling knowing that I went through purple line, purple section leader, purple thunder section leader, a year on gold, and then a year on gold as a section. So like any possible position you could be on a snare drum at that school, I got to go through. So I think it just made it really fulfilling getting to cap that off. And I'd always wanted that, but I didn't know what my path to getting there was going to be. But it ended up working out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you really talk about just the building blocks. You were that guy, and you're right. You literally had every position in every single ensemble that we had. So I'm just really proud of that of you for that, because I mean, I've also seen students come through the program and they gave up, and they didn't achieve it as quickly as they thought they should, or whatever, but you never did. And I'm always been so proud of you for that. And I think, like you say, I think that gave you a level of humility, which guess what? I think is one of the best things you can have as a leader, which I think is what made you such an effective leader, is if you got that level of humility and knowing what somebody else is going through, and you can meet them where they are, and really have that empathy, which I always thought that you had. And I think that anybody that was underneath your leadership would agree that you brought that level of caring about the person more than caring about the notes that you're playing, So I've always been super proud of you for that. What would you say your favorite performance memory would be?
Oh man, probably TOC, my final year, that nighttime performance. I love playing at the shows because that's how I started. Like I just said, I saw that in 2013, and that changed everything for me. So getting to do that, and the football games are great. I love that. I'd do that again any day if I could. But there's something about playing for band people that look up to you like you're a giant. No matter what you do, they're going to think you're the best.
Right.
Because, it's the best thing they've probably seen in their life. So, like, that's cool when it's, like, playing for people like that, getting to inspire them, hopefully. I think that was really cool. It was a great time. And it's a home game. It's a home show.
Right.
It's a home show in front of people that are going to love no matter what goes on. And it's even better when it actually is really good.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I think, there's something to be said for seeing what great is to inspire somebody. I'll never forget, I was in 8th grade, and the first time I ever saw what truly world-class playing was up close and personal, like 10 feet away. It changed my life. It literally changed my life. It inspired me in such a way. And I think that, when our students realize that they just put their head down and they're pedaling hard and they're just working hard and trying to get to achieve a certain level of excellence in what we're playing and how we're playing it. And then next thing you know, you look around and you realize, wait a minute, we are those people now, and we are inspiring others, and we are changing lives. And we actually this year are taking the band off campus 4 times for the first time ever to 4 states, which is crazy. Actually getting ready to do our final off campus tomorrow. I'm heading down to South Carolina 6A, get to see some of my peeps down there. Looking forward to that. But yeah, realizing that you're in the moment where you're doing that. And I think that that's really cool to look in the eyes of our current students like Ashton here, and realizing that all that hard work is actually changing lives, is going to further the art form in the future. So I think that's all super cool. Which leads me to, I guess, Ace. Ace, another guy that kind of lived the gamut of the program and did some incredible things here. So Ace, thanks for being with us. And why don't you tell everybody about your time here?
Hey, thanks for having me. My name's Ace Sal, obviously. And my first year here was 2019. And then I took a little hiatus during COVID, came back in 21 through 24. And 2019 was obviously Purple Line. Quite a humbling experience for me, just as Matt said. But it was great, I learned a lot of things, and then obviously worked my way up, especially taking some time away from it. Like, you're there and then you have COVID and you're away from all your friends, and, it stinks, and you just want to be back and you just want to drum. So definitely coming back in 21 and seeing, Matt and everyone again, definitely made things great and reminded me, like, why we do this thing in the first place. So.
Yeah, I think COVID, you went through that period of time, obviously, and where you were on the line, and then all of a sudden it was just gone or whatever.
Yeah,
I think you don't even realize how much you care about it until it's gone. And that was a perfect example of that. So there was a real fire in the belly of a lot of our students, not just Drumline, just to get back and do the Pride of the Mountains experience again. So yeah. So how did that feel when you came back? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It felt great. Just as it's like almost being homesick, because
Right.
Now that I live here, of course I love traveling, but this is always going to be home to me, I can really relate with Justin and pretty much everyone else here has some sort of sentiment to this place, the things you've learned, the people you've met, the relationships you've built, are all unforgettable. And they've all been, while some have been, quite interesting, some adversity, some good, some bad, most of it's been great. And I've learned from all of the things that have been offered to me here. So obviously coming back, that's what made it the most thing. It was the people, obviously the activity, like getting to drum, getting to crank those snares back up, those Yamahas, just how we like it, it's a really sought after thing, and it's really unique because I feel like less than 1% of the population of the world really understands what it's like to be in a line like that, to use your ears at the maximum level and to be a perfectionist, at the highest level, with your best friends. That's another thing. Cause you work with people and it's like, you might not have that bond, but on a line, it's like, this is basically your family. So
Yeah.
it's just a completely different experience.
No, it totally is. It makes it even more meaningful, and it makes you want to work even harder. Like you don't let your brothers and sisters down, So
No,
like,
absolutely.
and everybody seems to think it's all golden all the time. That is not true. What we do is a very physical thing. It's a very difficult thing. You're dealing with all kinds of personalities. You're dealing with all kinds of even motivations, like why people do it. Sometimes their motivations are different, and finding them and meeting them where they are, and can sometimes be hard. Sometimes there are hard times, and not everybody wants to be out there in 100 degree weather, on the asphalt doing the thing and trying to work through that and grind through that. But that to me is where the real growth comes. You only grow when you're uncomfortable in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of that kind of stuff happens too, and I think there's a lot of growing up that happens to our students currently, anytime they're in the drumline, and it happened to people on the Zoom call right now, that during that period of time you end up growing up a lot because you start learning that the adversity is where that real growth comes from. And then of course there's pride when you look back and you realize that you came out of a valley and you're on a mountaintop and you're feeling great about it. I mean, there's a lot of pride to that too, and you see firsthand that the hard work was worth it. So, and speaking of hard work, the guy that's doing it right now, gritting the whole thing out, Mr. Ashton Thompson, right here to my right. So Ashton, thanks for being here. And just got done with class, and here he is. But we've had a lot of fun this year. We're not done yet, but done an amazing job. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your story, and we'll go from there.
Well, first, before I talk about myself a little bit, I just want to thank y'all for having me today. It's a huge honor to be on the same panel as people who really molded and created the legacy. So thank y'all for being here, and thank you for having me. And it's been a pleasure so far to carry on the legacy that you all created. So my freshman year was 2022. I remember, so I was on the purple line my first year, and I remember how thankful I was just to get a spot. I came in, that was a heavy audition year. Really enjoyed my first year. It was an interesting year because it was a year where purple actually got to be in the show with the gold line. But did the PT in the off season, kind of scratched and clawed my way to a gold spot eventually for 2023. Spent 2023 and 24 with Ace, learning under that guy, some good times. And then, here in 2025, I was able to get the position of section leader, and I'm loving it so far.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you're in the thick of it right now. What do you think the biggest challenges are you're facing?
The biggest challenge I think there is that not a lot of people talk about is the responsibility you have as both a player and an educator. I mean, it's no secret, and these guys all know the level of book and the density of it that we're required to play each year is insane. And so the level of preparation it takes on your end to both be able to execute that book perfectly to set your guys up for success, but also being able to simultaneously provide a high level of education to the rest of the line at the same time is a insane task. But all these guys got it done, and I'm still figuring it out. But
right. Absolutely. I think the people that are listening out there, a lot of programs that are of this level, they are used to having techs, technicians, a snare tech, a quad tech, a bass tech, a cymbal tech, a front ensemble, different managers of things. What? Two or three of them are in rotation. And one of the things that actually makes this program special and the drumline special here is that we don't have any. Our techs are our section leaders. And with that comes great responsibility, like you're talking about. But it also comes with great growth also as an educator. I think that's why we have spit out so many amazing educators. All the people on this panel literally right now are teaching at very high levels with some amazing programs. And I think that's why you're forced to learn how to verbally say what you're thinking and how to convey that to somebody, and maybe say the same thing in a different way to the person right next to them because they're not getting it yet. So I think that's all really, really tough. Another thing that I want to talk a little bit about, I think Ashton can talk well to, is the fact that we do this incredible spring program and have been doing this for years now. And thanks to technology, we do these spring drum nights, one night a week starting in the spring. After we pick our section leaders in February, immediately once a week we are meeting. We are talking about the pedagogy of how we're going to get there, breaking down our technique, all the new people zooming in or live streaming or whatever, working with students on campus, trying to achieve their goals for the next year, building to that first audition day. There's a lot of responsibility that the section leader has to do. So can you talk about that side of things that a lot of people don't even know exists?
Yeah. So, I mean, we really, our season starts in February. I mean, I think it's not something that not a lot of people realize. And for this year specifically, in 24, we had a lot of vets. I think we had only 2 new people on that snare line in 24. And so, we were losing a good bit of people. So we're like, we got to make up with that hard work. And so me and my split center, Drew Jenkins, who's been awesome to have this year, we sat down and said, okay, we need to make a curriculum for, 4 months and then 2 months in the summer. So, we started off planning basics and we're like, okay, how are we going to start introducing packet? How are we going to start building hands? And then what are we going to do with those guys who make gold and how are we going to develop them to come slinging, come August? But I mean, it was a lot of prep, but everyone, they helped me out a lot. All the auditionees they were super excited to practice, completed their video assignments and we're always super open to feedback.
Yeah, I think it's amazing the level of commitment behind the scenes of just students being willing to put that level of time in every single day, and then turning in video assignments and all that kind of stuff. And then, better than that, receiving the critique and actually doing something with it. There's a level of humility that comes with that too, saying I got problems and I need to fix it. So, but that level of achievement that everybody sees, that doesn't just happen. It takes an amazing amount of work. And you've done an incredible job. And so far, I mean, like I said, you're not done yet. But thank goodness, right? But you're trying to milk every moment. But what would up till now, what would you say your favorite, I guess, performance memory would be?
Well, I have a couple specifically that stand out to me. I remember specifically in 2023, that was my first time getting to go to Inca, and which is kind of my first time on gold, getting to do an exhibition. I remember that week prior, we had 1 week to put on part 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're gonna do this. And of course, in Potham fashion, we did it. And I just remember that feeling of that first afternoon run doing part 3. I was like, dude, I'm a rock star. I was like, this is awesome, But other than that, I think one special memory I think these guys can share with me too is, every year we have a history night with the snare line, and I always think it's always the first performance after that snare night. You just feel so much pride, and you really recognize all the hard work you've done, and you kind of have these guys who created this legacy in the back of your mind, and so that gratification of getting to perform with that being in your mind is really special.
You guys have a history night?
Oh yeah.
Why have I never known?
It's secret. It's secret. But no, I agree with all that. And that long purple line thing is real. And something being created here that we take on the road or whatever, and some young person like a Matt Gaddy back in the day and saw it and said, I want to be a part of that. I don't know how to get there yet, but I want to be a part of that. That's the special part, and feeling that level of responsibility. Let's get real. That I to this day feel that we have to keep upping our game every single year, which is why we spoke for 2 hours on the road yesterday, Dylan, talking about next year. So it's that constantly pushing the envelope of how we can be better and what we can do next to achieve more at the college level, and continue to inspire. But I'm so proud of you, Ashton. You just have done amazing work. And so if you haven't checked us out yet, you definitely need to come check a lot out for sure. And like I said, we got that. We got a couple more games after tomorrow. So you got to check them out. But before we wrap this whole thing up, I want to go around the room one more time and just ask you guys basically one question. And that is, everybody here has lived the experience, done the drumline thing, learned from the growth of it all, and are now out in the field doing professional experiences now for other people and teaching. But looking back at your time here, what's one piece of advice that you would have for an incoming percussionist into Western Carolina University's drumline? I guess we'll start with Jason.
The best way to describe that, I think everybody's probably going to have a similar answer to this, is just literally embrace every opportunity and love every minute of it, commit to it. And Matt, you remember this, probably the last place I wanted to be when I came in as a freshman was at Western Carolina University.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Speaking to the fact that we didn't know what the future was, Bob was new. In fact, when I signed up to go to Western, I was trying to go to East Tennessee State, where he was. Right. And study up there, because that was kind of the pinnacle of what the area education and band was.
Yes.
Western was not
Hmm.
what it was now. And so, I learned very quickly that, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my home. And the little things, right, that splintered off of that. The fact that we had to order drums, and when the drums came in, they're blue. So we have to spend a day recovering those drums.
Right.
That skill led to my business opportunities later on in life that I'm still benefiting now.
Yeah.
Right. The connections that I made. So embrace every opportunity you have and love every minute of it, because those connections and those opportunities will thread throughout your entire life, including our friendship, where we touch base all the time
Mhm.
and we share stories, and we get opportunities like this to share with the next generation.
Yeah, I love that. Wes, what do you think, buddy?
That's hard to go after. I was going to say the same thing, because you got to embrace every single opportunity you're given on that campus. It's a magical place. And we can all say that. I think the one lesson that I've learned from Bob and you, Matt, is there's no limits in what you can achieve. Just keeping your head down, doing the work, being with the right people, enjoying the process of go. You may not know where you're going, but like enjoy the process, the daily grind of doing that. And there's no limits. I mean, you guys push the boundaries every year, even when all of us were in it, of design and where we're going with electronics and who knows, So embrace every moment and live in the moment. That's my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, Dylan. You've seen every angle. So what do you think?
Yeah, I would say probably the most important thing to pass along is know your material. Yeah, when if you want to audition for something, you got to know the material. That, and be okay to not be the best one in the room. I think that's for that. Just know that if you're coming to Western Carolina, you're coming to get better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's the thing I'm the most proud of, I guess, too, is creating an environment where that can happen. I think that's really cool. So, Justin, what do you think, pal? What do you think?
Just to piggyback, I hate to sound like everybody else, but just make the most out of every single moment. Actually, before I even say that, make sure you do your schoolwork too. Okay, make sure you're prioritizing your schoolwork.
Heard.
But yeah, just make the most out of every moment. Take plenty of pictures, and there's so much good that comes from being in that band, man. Like I just can't stress that enough. I met my wife in the band. Very pretty, curly-haired saxophone player.
Yeah, don't know how you did that, by the way.
Marrying her,
yeah,
and
good
now
for you.
Kids down the road, like all of that kind of stuff. That band is very, very important. So just make the most of it, man. And again, Matt, thank you for everything. And listen to Matt. Whatever he says, hey, he's the freaking GOAT, dude. He's the GOAT, for real.
Not everything. Not everything.
Yeah, definitely not everything. But
no,
most
not everything.
Matt.
I love it. Victor, you're out there doing the thing, man. What would you say to somebody walking in here?
If they were coming in Coulter, I'd tell them this straight up. As soon as you can, understand and realize what you're about to be a part of. I always equate like big superstar programs like Western to like a big mansion. Like you get an opportunity to live in this. You didn't build it. You ain't swept the floor. You haven't put a shingle on a roof. You've done nothing but audition. And Matt says you're allowed in here. Realize that, please, because we're one generation away from it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The protection of that house that you get to live in. If you realize that, then your favorite moments when you 10 years later when you're on a podcast are not going to be probably things that you would even think about going in. It's like we did big things. Y'all have done Macy's several times. I was not in the years of that, but I did the Rose Parade. Those are like big generic big memories. But like I was just recapping, like if you would have asked me that question, what would my favorite performance memory be? It was like I don't know if it was 2012 or 2013, but we had this section called the Maestoso, and it was Maestoso to the end. And it was probably the beefiest, hardest, most impressive segment that we could play. And guess what? We were all the way in the back by the scaffolding behind tubas. Nobody ever heard it. But guess what? We knew what we were doing, right? It was special to us. And every time we come up, I mean, we were ramming. And it was just like nobody, only us 10 or only us 9 knew what we were doing. And that, man, that is special. So just the quicker you can be aware of where you are and what you're doing. I tell my kids at Dorman now is that they're coming in as freshmen, and the first thing I tell them was like, "You've done nothing to contribute to this. To contribute to this. Your parents have a mailbox in Roebuck. That's it. So you get to wear our jacket, but you know what? Live up to that. As soon as you realize that, you're going to jump in that pool, man, and you're going to just get covered up and live up and meet expectations. So the quicker you can realize where you are, and sometimes it happens very quick, like when you show up and Ben Lupton's out there chopping out and you're like, oh, here we go. Not in Kansas anymore. But as soon as you can realize that, you're going to take off and it's going to mean more to you.
Yes, I agree. I think that's wonderful advice. I love the imagery of that. I guess Ryan Hall, what would you jump on that with?
I think some advice I could give for a freshman coming in or a senior graduating who's not a section leader, this can go for. True leadership is about service. Put the success of the group before your own recognition, and everything will fall into place. Wes said this earlier, take pride in the process, not just the product. You're going to have a great product if you go to Western Carolina, but it's all about the process, and you'll learn that process and take that process with you, whatever you do in life. Get to know the kids outside of rehearsal. You'll know these guys for the rest of your life. Like I said, Seth Estes and Taylor Barnes, we were all about precision while we were at Western, but now we text every week about how to smoke the perfect brisket or the perfect ribs. So get to know those guys, because I talked to these guys that I was on the line with more than anybody in my life. Last thing I want to leave everybody with, section leaders, please make sure Matt sticks with the Flam XT bottoms. This was a long battle that we tried to get away from the Mylar, me and Alex. So please just stick with those XTs.
It's done. Don't worry about it.
Man.
We're good. We're good. That's hilarious. That is awesome. All right. And just to echo a little bit about that, I say this to the whole band now, but if you don't enjoy the journey, then what are you doing here? Because a show on a Saturday is super fun, but it's 10 minutes of your life. We're talking about hundreds of hours spent to produce that 10 minutes. The journey is where the fun is. The journey is where the growth is. The journey is where the friendships are made. So yeah, embrace the process and enjoy the journey, because that's where it's at. So Gaddy, what do you think about that?
Well, I had a very long journey, and I think if I didn't enjoy it, I would not have ended up being on this podcast a few years later. So I guess I would just say, soak up every moment, and no one is going to do it for you. You know what I mean? You can't come in and just expect to be handed a spot. Even if you make it, you're not, you can't expect anything to be given to you. You got to earn every bit of it, and it makes it more worth it. I think it makes it way more fulfilling later on, knowing you put in, 8 hours a day outside of your studio practice time out at the wall. And that finally pays off later on. I mean, that's a lot of time. I could have done anything else. But I don't regret any of it, because it ended up working out. So I would just say that no one's going to do it for you. Go after what you want, what position you want. It'll be worth it later on.
Yeah, there's I don't want to be too dad on anybody, but there's a lot of life lessons in that. I mean, nobody's gonna make your bed for you. So I think learning that early about what true work is, and getting the benefit of your work. I'm beginning to feel that and having that pride about it. That hopefully will carry through the rest of your life. So, Ace, you're the first person out of this scene so far. So what are you thinking now?
Yeah. So. Actually, I just blanked.
Yeah.
What was the topic again?
What would you give
That's
some advice to an incoming person?
Of course, yeah. So first thing I always used to tell people at We Drum 1 or 2 is the season's already over. You know what I mean? Before we even get into it, we're all college students. We really don't have a full-time drumming. We rehearse a few hours out of the week. So when you're not practicing, the time in rehearsal, and stuff like that, it matters, and you shouldn't take that for granted. Just as everyone else has said, really soak in every single one of those moments. But with that being said, the time away from the drum is also just as important. Because you guys can be ramming and stuff. I remember distinctly 2024, band camp. Snares, we're out there. It's a hot summer day. We're repping. We're in a circle, and it's just like we kind of start plateauing. We start getting diminishing returns. So what do? We just go hop in the creek. Just take a load off and just spend some time together, and then come back, and it's like it never happened. So it's just like those bonds, and not just the drumming. It's those together. It's a fine balance between being in front of the drum and also like having the time away to sort of process and appreciate what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because it can be really easy when you consume yourself all the time with one thing. And especially the show, it's like, I remember we used to play really great reps and we would all still get really frustrated because it's like, it's not perfect, but we're still, chasing perfection and catching excellence. That's one of those ones I really like. That's kind of what I tried to like get us to tap into. Just don't take it so seriously, but also, just have some passion, some care, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. What a beautiful experience to be able to look at all these faces right now. Thank you so much for being with us. And also major thank you to Rain Woods, our student archive chief, who really is the one making all of this stuff happen. So Rain, thank you so much for doing this for us today.
Thank you guys so much for being on here. Oh my gosh, what an awesome group of people to have on this episode. Your guys' stories are just so interesting, and I always love listening to it so much. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. But it is that part of the episode where I want to stress that we only have a handful of lead snares here with us today on this episode. The long purple line of snare leaders stretches far and wide. So any other lead snares that may be listening right now, please thank you so much for your hard work with this band and your continued support after the fact. Before we end, I also want to give a little bit of a shout out. Sorry, I have to brag on my really awesome staff. This year for archives, we created a brand new position for one of our staff members. Brianna Vasquez is actually our first ever percussion specialist for our history. So she has just been doing an awesome job. Just making sure that drumline and front and rhythm and like anything percussion wise that we do gets like tended to in our history and gets a equal spotlight to every other part of the band. So I just have to mention her because she's super awesome. But Matt, you got anything else to say?
I guess I would just say, first of all, a massive thank you to my friends here today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the kind words toward me. I really, really do. But I just hope that everybody understands that not just people on this podcast, but out there, I'm learning every day too. Everybody on this podcast has taught me something too. And I'm continuing to try to learn and to grow. And I think that's really what makes Western Carolina special. It's a place that can happen in a safe space where we all embrace each other and lift each other up and encourage. And next thing you know, we're creating amazing world-class things going on in this beautiful valley. It's an amazing thing, special thing that we've all done together. One single snare drummer out there doing it by themselves is not very exciting, but you get the lineage of snare drummers and quad drummers and bass drummers and cymbal and trumpet players and everything. It's just amazing to look at what's been created here over time. So I've just been a small part of it, but it's been a very special day for me to have all of y'all here. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening in to this episode of the Showtime Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. A special thank you to our main man, Sam Wallace, and everyone who supports the Pride of the Mountains Marching Band. Shout out to our friends on the Western Wednesdays podcast. Be sure to check them out to stay connected with WCU alumni.
In all sincerity, I'm humbled by these experiences, so thank you once again. And as always,
Go Cats!